Growing Up Weird.
Hi, and welcome to Growing Up Weird, the podcast where we explore how the earliest chapters of Western childhoods shape the health stories that we then carry into our adulthoods. I'm Dr. Greg Dickens, scientist and consultant in medical innovation, and I am here with Dr. Gwen Bradbury. Hello! Who is a healthcare researcher, author, and your guide through the science, stories, and traditional strategies that connect childhood beginnings to lifelong good health. Each week, we dig into the newest evidence, understand how it links together, and walk through some of the changes that we in the West could make to give kids decades of better health. So, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a healthcare professional, or simply curious about how the body and brain develop over time, you're in the right place. Are you ready? Have you got a cup of tea? Good. This time, we're not going to start with the news. We're going to do news, don't worry, there will be news, but first we're going to do an introduction. Gwen has brought a special guest. Gwen, who is your special guest?
My special guest is Anna Wilson, who we were at university together, we were colleagues together. She's also a biomedical scientist and a very cool person and an international sportswoman. So I thought she was a pretty good guest for us today, Greg.
I think very sensible. Anna, hello.
So hello, thank you very much for having me.
Amazing. All right, now we're going to drop Anna straight into it and we're going to go into the news. Hopefully, she's just lucked out and brought a pet paper in her back pocket. We will find out. Gwen, have you got news?
Oh, I have great news, Greg.
Anna, have you got news?
I do have some news.
Phenomenal. Gwen, what's yours?
So my news is there was a short paper published in the American Journal of Perinatology by Ferret et al.
You didn't even look at notes. That's incredible.
Oh, you can see my eyeline, folks. But what was really cool is, Greg, do you remember the ARRIVE trial, which is a really informed birth practice?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to put you on the spot and say, what was it, Greg? But 2018, folks, there was a randomized controlled trial called the ARRIVE trial, which asked the question of, if you do inductions on women who haven't had babies before at 39 weeks, so that is before their due date, does it reduce the number of C-sections that happen? And this was a controversial trial for a bunch of reasons. Firstly, because about 75% of the women they approached didn't want to be randomized. They didn't want to have the risk of induction. So we had a very small group who ended up going through. But the important thing about it is that they did find in this setting a significant reduction in the number of C-sections if you induced women a week before their due date. Now, this then actually had a huge effect because, as we know, in a lot of obstetric trials, it's really hard to do randomized controlled trials. So actually, the evidence base is really poor. So to have a randomized controlled trial on such a great, big, provocative topic meant that guidelines changed very quickly about offering routine induction before the due date because people felt reassured that it reduced the risk of C-sections.
Mm.
Now, the paper that I've just referenced today looked at the US birth records before and after the introduction of new guidelines based on the ARRIVE trial. And they said, did the number of inductions decline when this was offered?
Whoa, hang on. Did the number of inductions decline when what was offered?
When women were started to be offered induction at 39 weeks. So do you expect at a general level, if you have a policy change, you should be able to look what happened before, what happened afterwards, so you can kind of take data points at different times. And you would expect, even if like most people, like a lot of people weren't induced, you'd still expect if there was going to be a reduction, you would see a reduction.
So the policy's worth a darn. Yeah, it actually does something good.
Yeah, and it's really important we do these ones because sometimes you can have unintended consequences where actually things don't work in the real world for a whole bunch of different reasons, like they do in study. So they did what they call an interrupted time series, where they took kind of snapshots and they looked to see whether the C-section rate went down. And they found that actually the rate of induction of labour, rate of induction of labour early or on the due date increased from 18% to 20%.
Okay.
So more women were being induced at or before their due date than before. And importantly, they found no reduction in the Caesarean rate. So they found more women were being induced early, but it had no effect on Caesarean sections.
Interesting.
And given that the idea of this policy was to save C-sections, to save women from going through C-sections, make it easier for everyone.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to materialise in the real world.
A real-world test.
Yeah, and this is the last, and I think there have been 2 or 3 other studies looking at real-world data and comparing it to the randomized controlled trial.
And of course, they will immediately change the policy.
Yeah, no. Policies stay. Once a policy, it takes a lot to shift a policy. But I think the reason I wanted to bring it up is that we talk a lot about evidence, like what is good gold standard evidence. But even in these really big questions, it can be really hard to gather evidence. It's great when people try, but we have to be aware of what the limitations of the studies are and what they look like when actually that's translated into the real world.
Nice. Okay, big, bold, scientifically important study there.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want some nonsense?
Oh, I'd love some nonsense.
Because I have tried as I might, and I did try, I could not find scientifically hard-hitting news this week.
Great.
So I have 3 pieces of medium news.
Fantastic.
They're medium news for multiple reasons, and I'll tell you what they are in a second. The first one, which I thought was interesting, but I couldn't get a non-paywall copy, so I can't actually tell you the methods, and I can't actually fact-check it, and I can't say this was done well or this was done badly, was on central precocious puberty.
Oh,
Are you familiar with CPP?
okay. So I'm assuming this is
Fancy name for
puberty early.
Yeah. It is
Sexually?
exactly. So it's not enforced upon them with hormonal changes. It is an internally generated early onset of puberty.
Yeah, okay.
And that normally is dietary. It can be stress induced, and there's a bunch of other things, but in most cases you're looking at dietary onset. And it's not just girls, it's also boys. We exist too, just to be clear. So, and it's interesting. The Yuanjian Cai and a large team out of the Taipei Medical University in Taiwan, please don't bomb me for that one, looked at 481 people with CPP and then looked at their diets and found a really strong correlation between artificial sweeteners and CPP.
Ooh, interesting.
Interesting. And that's the sort of thing that makes the news. And I'm like, oh, cool. This was published. When was this published? A couple of months ago. Why has it not been in the news? I don't know. Is it big sweetener? Putting their thumb on the scale? Is it? Or is it just bad science? Can't tell because I can't get into the paper. So that's really irritating. But it does say in the abstract, which I find interesting, certain sweeteners have more of an effect than others.
So you expect.
Glycyrrhizin and sucralose and lots of added sugar.
Glycyrrhizin, isn't that licorice?
I don't know.
Put you on the spot there.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Rise being root in the Latin or Greek. That would make sense.
Go on then.
No, you chuck Latin or Greek at me. I'll do my best. Seemed to have an effect on girls, and sucralose was the only thing that seemed to have an effect on boys. Is it licorice?
I'm just going to say,
You managed to recognize the Latin for
which girls.
and breast. Okay, but yes, don't all go out and throw away all your licorice, because this, I can't verify this. I haven't seen it in any other sources. It looks like a cool paper, but I can't get to it because science is not democratized and nobody can get the evidence they want unless they pay for it. That's my first piece.
It was fascinating. I enjoyed that.
Thank you. The next one then is really interesting. Developmental timing of auditory deprivation influences spatial memory and hippocampal plasticity in rats.
Okay, slow down slightly.
No, not slowing down. We're flying through these. Let me translate.
Yeah, that's needed.
Marianne Hang on. We're going to do this properly. Marianne Misalehi and a large team out of Iran University of Medical Sciences, which is in Tehran, looked at if you deafen rats at different ages and then test their spatial memory, their spatial reasoning, and their just general hippocampal learning, what's the difference? And they showed some really impressive results is the word I'm looking for, Anna. Yes. Age-related results is the word I was looking for. Showing that the earlier you deafen rats, the easier it is for them much later in life to learn and stuff. And they say that's fine. That's because neuroplasticity is higher in the young. They find other ways to do their thinking that don't involve hearing. And that's great. And then at the end of the paper, they say, this clashes terribly with what has been found before. And we're just going to ignore that. They offer a couple of, well, maybe they got it wrong for this reason. And then there's no taking it apart, and no, the next test required to resolve this is X. That isn't done. And that bugs me, because that's bad science too. This might be absolutely perfect and completely right, but looking at the disparity between the two results needs to be done. Okay, so that's my second one.
I'm thinking about the fact we were talking so much about school discos and that boys, that's all discos. I thought somehow we were going to get on from rats onto disco.
No, I'm sorry. I can't do that. I can't jump from rats to children. But I can tell you that school discos are very frequently over the 100 decibel limit, which is shown to damage hearing after 15 minutes. And they're very often longer than 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
So, earplug your kids. Or don't have any.
Or just give them, don't have any kids. Or disco.
I don't know. Oh, no, I was going to say no.
Oh, well, no kids or discos. Who knows?
Okay, last one then. Quick as we can. A paper in Cell, which is a journal I very much respect, by I.J. Muyachi et al. Out of, that's a mail to button. That's not what I wanted. Of the Institute for Molecular and Cellular Regulation in Gunma, Japan, showed very neatly that having a dog it leads to higher well-being for teenagers.
I've read this.
Yeah. Yep. This has been in The Guardian. This has been in The Independent. It's been in a few others. But basically, just having a dog. No, nothing else. If everything else you can do whatever you like with, but just having a dog will boost your mental well-being. And they say, we reckon it's probably because of their commensals and their effect on the microbiome.
Oh, that's a big...
And I say that's exactly what you'd expect from people from the Institute for Molecular and Cellular Regulation. And so my third thing then, railing against weird science here this week, is check your biases, right? Because you would expect people from the Laboratory for Intestinal Ecosystem and the Center for Human Animal Symbiosis, you would expect them to have a microbiome answer here. And that might be true. That might be true.
Yeah.
But they don't mention they
So I don't know if this was the same paper, but I read that they took
those commensals
and put them into rats.
Yeah.
And then according to the rats' behavior, they became more sociable.
They did.
And more happy.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. They spend more time in the center of the enclosure, less time by themselves, more time grooming, all the standard markers for I'm a happy rat. And that is by giving them dog microbes. I don't actually want to tell you how they did that. But to then say, and that's why the teenagers were happier.
Feels like quite a big giant jump.
It's a big leap.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are my 3 papers. They're all about science, not really about the core of the science. I apologize. I'll do better next week.
That's fine.
Anna, you said you found a paper.
Yeah, so my paper was published in Nature last year, and it's about how very cool, cutting-edge biomedical methods are allowing us to understand the mechanism of action of previously poorly understood diseases and allowing us to use existing drugs to get remarkable outcomes. So this Swiss, I think, dermatologist, I think was quite traumatized by seeing this thing called toxic epidermal necrolysis. It's practice, which is basically where completely fit, healthy person takes a medication for the first time and gets an incredibly severe allergic reaction to it, which basically causes their skin to fall off, all of their skin. This is very fatal because the skin is your main barrier. So people get infections, dehydrated, incredibly horrible. And because people didn't really understand or didn't understand at all previously around what was going on, they treated these people largely like burns victims, and mortality was super high.
And you would, right? Because it would look like a burn.
Yeah, exactly. They'd give general anti-inflammatories, but really they didn't know what was actually happening at a molecular level.
Okay.
So this dermatologist, he embarked on some research to try and understand, well, what's actually happening here in the skin to cause it to fall off. And he used a technique which is called spatial multiomics, which sounds very, very confusing. But what you're basically doing is, instead of just taking a skin sample, blending it, and looking at the output, you're able to actually isolate individual cells and cell types by kind of cutting them out of skin samples in this case, and then looking and seeing, okay, what are the immune cells doing? What are the skin cells doing? What are the kind of other dermal tissues doing? And really precisely see what's going on. And what he basically found is that the immune cells had this massively upregulated interferon pathway. So interferons are normally produced in response to viral infections, not in these kind of allergic cases. But he found that this pathway that produces these interferons was crazy, crazy high. The great news, drugs already exist that inhibit this pathway that are used in conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, other autoimmune diseases. So we know that these drugs are broadly safe to give. They already exist.
Yeah.
They started a clinical trial, initially just with 7 patients. This condition's very rare, so you don't get a lot of people. They gave these existing treatments to these 7 patients. All of them were still alive 30 days later. And it basically kind of just stopped their TED. One patient had lost 30% of his skin coming in as a patient, got the drug, and within 2 weeks had grown it all back. So I love this because I just thought, okay, we've taken this really cutting edge scientific method. It's allowed us to really understand what's going on, picked treatments that already exist, and first time you use it in a clinical trial, extraordinary results. So, bit off topic, but very, very cool.
That is so cool. I mean, Greg, are you thinking what I'm thinking about snakes and snake bites?
I'm not thinking what you're thinking about snakes and snake bite, but perhaps I should be. That's fascinating.
Yeah, because it was exactly the same thing that we looked at before we went traveling, right?
We looked at phosphodiesterase 2 blocker.
Yeah, but that was exactly the same problem, which was that for a long time, snake bite was only ever treated with antivenom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the problem with antivenom is that about one in 5 people has a really severe anaphylactic reaction to it. So that's not the kind of odds that you want with any treatment, especially not for people who are already dying of snake bite.
You're traveling in a group of 5.
Well, no, you're traveling in a group of 5. That was it. Maybe there's the other because it's a significant concern.
Yep.
And so I can't remember exactly. Was it a similar? It seems like a similar sort of, probably not the same method, but understanding the process that was going on in the types of snake bite that make your flesh dissolve.
They use real-time proteomics to do that as well.
Yeah.
While not spatial proteomics, it's a step along the pathway that led to this.
Yeah, trying to kind of precisely understand what processes are actually happening in the body. Yeah.
But do you remember the paper that we read before we travelled with the mice?
Yeah, I do. So this paper was in Nature in 2022, I think. And they said, look, this death pathway, when you get bitten by a viper, it looks like some well-known, well-studied anti-cancer drugs would just block this pathway. So maybe we don't need to destroy the venom, maybe we just need to block the pathway.
Yeah.
And they said, all right, well, here's 40 mice, and here's venom from the 8 most dangerous vipers in the world. And they gave 5 mice each venom, and they all died immediately, or within a few minutes. And then they gave 5 more mice the venom. And then after the venom, they gave them this phosphodiesterase orally.
Which
just to basically show how good it was. They did it before, and then they did it after, and then they did it after and orally.
Yeah.
And all of the mice survived the 18 hours of the trial.
Very
so, yeah.
And these drugs had already been through their test. You know, when pharmaceutical drugs are tested, you initially test in healthy people.
Yeah.
Then you test in people then you test in a large group of healthy people. Then you test in people with a condition. But these drugs had already got through the early safety trials. And either were safe, they just weren't effective against cancer.
Yep.
But they are effective against banana.
Which is why they're now in trials against rattlesnakes.
Rattlesnakes, yeah.
Other places.
God, okay, gosh, great paper. That was fascinating.
So that brings us to the main event. Gwen, what are we talking about this week?
Well, Greg, last week's article now, was about how you set up a high movement home.
Oh, yeah.
So it was talking about...
A motorhome, a caravan.
Yeah, well, it's not quite the home that's doing the move.
Oh,
Greg. It is about...
Baba Yaga's house with a lace. I'm sorry.
No, it is about what sort of changes one can make to help their house to. You got me going. So help the house to move. No, help them to move better around the house. Because most people's houses, they are the places that we're most sedentary, right? They don't have much space. And so you think, oh, right, well, then we'll have to be sedentary. But actually, it's not even just a space thing, because there was a study a little while back that looked at the size of house and how sedentary people are. And it does not correlate with the size. So you can be, I know, I thought this was really interesting. You can be really sedentary in a big house. You can move quite a lot in a small house.
Yeah, interesting.
Which is great. So yes, how do you set up a home to make people move more?
Nice. And I see that you've tied this to the guest. We had a very high movement guest here.
I have. Well, one of the reasons I'm going to ask this specifically and put Anna on the spot, because one of the reasons I was super interested in how you set up young kids to move more is that when I met Anna, who is, as I said, she plays touch rugby internationally, incredible sportswoman. What struck me was her ability to do like pull-ups and do lots and lots of stuff above her head in a way that I'd never seen another woman ever do. So Anna, tell me about why do you think you have a good above the shoulder strength?
So my hypothesis is because my parents' house is right opposite a park. And also, after school, my mum would let my brother and me play in the park before going home pretty much every day. Or that's what my memory leads me to believe anyway. So the park had monkey bars. I used to love the monkey bars. So that is my hypothesis. And it's why I have such good upper body strength.
Is it true that your school allowed you to climb trees?
Yes, so my school did. It was a bit unusual, but from what year would it have been? I think maybe year 3 or year 4. We were allowed to climb trees at break time, and the only rule was you had to stay below 2 meters.
Interesting.
Unless there were certain trees where there was a sign which said climb at the bottom and limit at the top, and you could go higher in those trees.
Oh my goodness, so good. Can you imagine?
What a sensible approach to risk.
Do you remember what happened for our son's first week back in a UK school after travelling?
The amount of times he got in trouble for climbing things.
Yeah,
I can remember.
But especially, do you remember the teacher called you over and said, sorry, Daddy. Sorry, Daddy, but he climbed a tree today.
And I looked blankly at the teacher, and I said, yes. And they said, whoa, trees. And I said, I've seen one. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, they've got to be joking. They actually want me to side with them.
Yeah. So this also reminds me, I used to work at a kids club in the summer holidays, which I loved, great fun. And I guess because of my upbringing, there was a tree kind of in this field where we often congregated for things with a branch that was just high enough that the kids could jump and hang on it. So I would let the kids do this. And then I got told off once by the group leader because the kids weren't allowed to climb trees. And I was like, their feet are about 10 centimeters off the ground. What do you think is going to happen?
Were they worried about the tree?
I don't think so. No.
Although I have heard that as a kind of retrofitted excuse. But that hit people straight on rare.
This is a botanical garden, then sure, don't climb the trees.
Yeah. I want to say there is this word called thigmomorphogenesis, which I learned for KDI, which is the word that how basically you grow and get stronger in response to load. So actually one could say that providing you don't break the tree, climbing the tree is just stronger.
No, it's symbiotic. I hadn't realized that trees need small boys to climb them to attain their full tree.
Boys know this though, Greg, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do. As the small girls, to be clear.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Anna, yes, you are the right person to assess a house for movement capability. Gwen, how do we go about making a house of any size high movement?
Oh, I think the kind of fundamental mindset to have is, how do I make things slightly more difficult in a fun way? Is that fair? I feel like that's what I also do.
I was going to describe it as making things you need to do often inconvenient.
See, much better. Yes. Okay. Examples, Anna.
So an example would be putting all of your kitchen pots and pans in the lowest possible cupboard or the highest possible cupboard.
Yeah.
Depending on whether you want to go for the upper reach or the squat down. Like removing half of your stairs.
Especially if your toilet's upstairs.
Yeah.
It's so countercultural though. I remember a friend of mine was asking how you would make a cup that would make older adults like stronger. Oh, how could I use a cup to make them stronger? I was like, well, firstly, you make it heavier. I should all but then to have that would be heavier.
Yeah.
And then make it really wobbly. Make it likely to spill on them. It's about building. You have to build a little bit of inconvenience or difficulty in.
So this is interesting. So this segues into an article I read ages ago. And basically they took a group of older people that had been living in a kind of care home environment.
Ultimate.
But then they kind of assessed people that they thought kind of could be a bit more independent, and they put them in small groups living independently in a house.
Nice.
And they found that basically all of their mobility and capability scores improved once they were in the independent house, because they were actually having to move, having to do things. Yes, it was more inconvenient, took them longer, but was making them more capable.
Yeah.
No, it's
Which is not surprising, yet we find it so surprising, right?
Well, not the modern kitchen.
Oh yeah, modern kitchen.
Design features of the modern kitchen are based around the convenience triangle, right? Which goes cooked. It's an American design thing, so I'm going to call it a cooktop. You can call it a hole for a stove. Call it what you like. Cooktop, fridge, and sink. Those are your 3 points of movement, and you want to bring those into an easy triangle where it's no more than one step from one to the other. Your worktops then want to be on either side of whichever one of those is kind of in the middle-ish of your ease of use triangle. Sure, yeah, but that does 2 things. One of them is make people lazy and therefore less capable, because your body can do what you do, right? It doesn't take long. Your body attunes to what you do. And if you ask more of yourself than you're comfortable doing, eventually you're comfortable doing it. And if you ask less of yourself than you're comfortable doing, eventually that's your limit. Anyway, the other thing that bugs me about the kitchen convenience thing is it is designed for one person. It sucks for me because it's all 6 inches lower than I need it. And it sucks for kids because they can't reach any of it.
Yeah. That's great for me. I would just say it's up in the Goldilocks.
We show the housewife. You said it yourself. If it's great for you, then you're the housewife it was designed for.
Oh, gosh, that is so tellingly terrible.
To be clear here, Gwen is not a short little house, but...
And I don't like that any of those getting raised.
Wife, I think, is spare. But yeah, fair. Okay, so making things that you have to do inconvenient. And that's a 2-part thing, right? Here we're linking inconvenience with inescapability.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make this more specific then. We've half jokingly said take out your stairs and put the toilet upstairs. What else can you do? What else have we done?
So I'm going to ask Anna what she notices, but I'm going to jump in here for one thing, just because I was talking to an orthopedic friend of mine recently, and I said, I know 3 or 4 people about my age who've had distal radial fractures in the last year. That means fractures of the lower parts of their wrists or the lower parts of their arm bones above their wrists. And these are really critical. They can affect how your hand moves. They can affect if you have a job like a veterinary surgeon that depends on your hands. This can be career limiting. This is, having a break in that area is really bad. But these are low load fractures. These are this bone fractures when you don't ever put weight through it and you don't strengthen it. And actually, I was thinking, when do most people my age put weight through their hands?
And they're sparring.
Yeah, when? I mean,
Or if they're picking up children.
so you put some traction through. Yeah. Right, that is true. So picking up, maybe, yes.
Yeah.
Compression?
Press-ups?
Yeah.
Okay, so exercise.
If people are doing press-ups.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
It's really hard, isn't
That
it?
one time they fall over on black
Yeah.
ups?
That one time they fall over on black ice, the ones the dog pulls them sideways and they fall.
Yeah.
But actually, the really obvious time that humans put weight through their arms is getting off the floor.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds so obvious, but actually, if you are repeatedly sitting on the floor and getting off the floor many times a day, you are loading these bones just fine.
Yeah.
So you probably don't look at the chairs in your house and think, you're the reason my arm bone fractured. But actually, maybe we should be. So I think the one thing that we've talked about kitchen arrangement, etc. But I would say furniture that you sit on has an enormous effect on just how much you move.
You're currently listening to a podcast recorded by 3 people sitting on the phone.
Out of complete necessity.
Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? You make it inescapable. And how do we make sitting on the floor inescapable, Anna?
Well, you don't have any chairs. So there's sat here in Wayne and Greg's living room, and there are no conventional chairs. So there are, I'd say, 2 seating units. One is some sofa cushions, but they are directly on the floor. And then there is a stool which has no back.
Yeah, it's a bike saddle on what remains of an office chair gas lift.
Yeah. So they're the only 2 seating or conventional seating units, but there is a lovely padded floor, which is quite delightful to sit on, to be honest with you.
It's warming.
Unit. You thinking about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, chairs, I think, are a big one. But I'm going to ask Anna. Anna, what in our house do you think, what should the question be? Surprises you, or do you think makes you move most? What should we ask?
What do you look at and think, oh, that made me move?
Well, so I'm going to say the lack of stairs. So this, I would say, is one of your more radical house modifications, but probably one of the most effective. Because, so basically, Gwen and Greg's stairs were, previously they kind of went round a corner.
Anna's doing a lot of hand gesticulations here, which is very funny. I love it when people do that on a phone or on a podcast.
Okay, well, they go through a couple of 90-degree turns, and they decided to remove the section right at the bottom. So now,
clear here.
Yeah.
They didn't decide anything. Gwen decided to remove these. I had to do it.
Everyone had that tone of surprise.
I did the carpet.
Load them up with the weird stuff. He's the one who actually executes.
would have said that to be Greg's sake. It was anti-conventional. Yeah, but basically the stairs now start at chest level. I'm about 5'8". They start about my chest level.
Yeah.
So if you want to go upstairs, the only bathroom in the house is located upstairs. You have to find a way to get your body from the ground to above chest level. Mm-hmm. So previously, this was no problem for me, being, as Gwen said, very athletic. However, I'm currently pregnant and 26-week pregnant. And having to go up the stairs, I'm like, oh, this is actually quite hard work. I'm having to think about it. This is like exercise. So I think, yeah, that's the most unusual, but I think the most effective, because you have to engage in a whole body movement that is quite a high % of your body weight and coordinate it if you want to go up the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are multiple ways to do it. You can swing up on the rope. You can do a kind of triceps pushy thing. You can I've got little tiny wooden notches on the wall that you can kick yourself up with. Or if you are feeling very tired or injured or old and infirm, or you're listening from the Buildings Regulations Board, you can put the actual stairs down. We do have a folding stair set with a banister and all that. So it meets code. It's just a faff to put that thing down. You have to unlock it in multiple places and you have to make sure it folds properly. It is deliberately a faff. I put those locks on purpose. You could have done it with just one, but I put 2 on because it just makes it harder to put down. Because it means you don't do it when you're feeling lazy. You do it when you actually have to.
Yeah.
And that's really rare. If you don't have guests, I think we've done it like once and I want to hurt my ankle, basically.
Yeah.
But it's also really convenient to have them down, because once they're down,
They stay down.
well, yeah, they're hard to put away, but they also take up so much space. And one of the big things we found when we removed them, so you're like, we have an entire hall.
Yeah.
And now all 5 of us can get ready in a very small hall, which would have completely been an impossibility.
Yeah.
But today we had a guest round and they said, oh, because you haven't got any stairs, I can't sit on the stairs to do my shoot. And I thought, yes, that is another movement that is hard. I mean, there are so many movements that are just a little bit harder, but we don't notice them
Be fair, she was 93.
It wasn't her. Oh, Matt. Actually, it was your uncle. But thank you for that. She was actually just fine.
Yeah, she was deeply bad.
And your granny?
She is sprightly.
But I want to be the granny who is able to do things. And as you say, so much of it is a choice, but we don't realise it's a choice because we never make the one big choice. I want to become sedentary and unable to do things. We just make a load of tiny little choices that don't feel like they're choices at all. We suddenly get to a point where we're like, oh, we have made that choice. We just didn't know we did.
Can I chuck in a house mod and see Anna's response? We deliberately chose to live about 14, 15 kilometers from work. Now, you used to work where we work now.
Yeah.
And you have done the cycle from here to there before.
Yeah.
How does it strike you?
It's a decent cycle. It says, is it 25 minutes? 30 minutes? But very...
25 if you put your foot down.
Yeah, if you're Greg, not 5. But it's a nice route. You're on a pedestrian cycleway the whole way. And I guess the other thing is you've made it kind of far enough that it's a decent workout twice a day, but not so far that cycling is still the quickest route to work because the traffic in Cambridge is terrible.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you still, if you're marginal, you're going to cycle. You're not going to drive.
Yeah.
At that time in the morning.
And I did this because I knew that in future years, Anna would say, how is it you phrase it again? Make things...
things that you have to do often slightly inconvenient.
Yes, that was still...
There's slightly more to be in.
And so we did this so that we would have to do it, and it was only slightly more inconvenient.
Yeah.
Because if it was much harder work, I wouldn't do it. I'd miss out. I'd drive or take the bus. And if it was any less inconvenient, it wouldn't actually be any good for me.
Yeah.
I am, at the moment, if I get deliveries, I almost always get them delivered to the co-op or the post office, which is about a couple of 100 meters walk away because I'm like, then I'm going to have to go there. I mean,
Yeah. And even if you don't want to.
even if I don't want to, I'm going to have parcels there. Yeah. So there are like lots of little things where you can make the things you do offer just a little bit more.
So we actually, right now where we live, we don't have a car, which we wouldn't use a car regularly enough to justify it. But I see this in action because previously when I did have a car, sometimes I'd be like, I'll just drive to the supermarket today because I could walk, but I want to buy quite a lot of stuff and it's just more convenient. Whereas now I get my hiking backpack.
Yeah.
I walk to the supermarket and walk back with 2 big bags because I'm like, I'm not paying for an Uber to go because I don't have a car. Makes it slightly more inconvenient. She a little bit of a strength workout.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We should close up soon, though. Anna, you've talked about the lack of chairs in here. You have talked about the fact the kitchen is laid out in a slightly weird manner. You've talked about the lack of stairs. Is there one other thing?
So there is one other slightly unusual thing in this house, in this room, which is a set of monkey bars.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, which are up on the ceiling in the lounge, which are a lot of fun. And some of them are particularly cool because they catch you by surprise. The bars actually rotate as you...
I put 2 of them on bearings.
Yeah. And there's also a set of rings, like gymnastic rings, which can hang from the monkey bars. Again, I'd say this is one where you kind of have to proactively do it. So it's more of a fun thing, I would say, than a necessity thing, but still good for building some tension, upper body kind of hanging into your daily routine. Particularly popular with the kids as well.
This is absolutely one that sorts the men from the boys, right? Because children don't need necessity to be active.
Yeah.
And I do.
Yeah.
Because I'm a man, I'm an adult, and I have to be off being efficient and saving energy. And so my body is designed to not mess around.
Yeah.
And that's a pity because these monkey bars are built for messing around. And it takes me a lot of effort to go, you know what, I'm going to do pull-ups, or I'm going to hang, or I'm going to swing around. Whereas the kids come in here and they're like, hey, monkey bars immediately.
They're like, can you pick me up to the monkey bars? So even if you don't want, you're at least getting some loading by picking them up so they reach them.
That is true. That latching point in the middle holds a ladder so the kids can get up to the monkey bars for themselves.
Yeah, okay.
But you're right. I don't get it down because it's inconvenient, and then that means I have to pick the kids up, which is even more inconvenient. But yeah, I hadn't really thought about the link between childhood, adulthood, play, and
That's a
efficiency.
good point. I haven't really thought about it either, because upstairs in the children's bedroom, they all, if you've seen the article, you'll see this. They all sleep in kind of overlapping bunk beds, and there's a scaffolding pole between they're set on a corner. It's a bit confusing. Have a look at the photo, make it much clearer. But when I'm reading the story in the evening, they're almost always playing on that bar.
Mhm.
One or two of them. They might be jumping down. They might be doing bat, where they go and put their feet up and they hang upside down. But they will just be doing it while I'm reading a story because it's really fun. And they'll happily spend 20 minutes just playing almost all the time, hanging on the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I was quite conscious of that today. So I was suddenly like, oh, I should stand up, because they're just they're moving so much. Like I was sitting there reading a book. I'm like, I should be standing up. You should be like, I don't know, squatting or balancing or something. But I had to think about that consciously, whereas clearly they're just like, let's play on the bar.
Because their bodies know it's time to learn and time to grow, and their brains are wired up to
To get them to grow
to
properly.
achieve that. And mine isn't, sadly. Okay, then. That brings us to question. You got a question?
I do.
What is it?
It's a really good question. Came on the back of the, we did the sugar article and sugar podcast.
Yeah.
This question is, I have a skinny kid who's a moderately picky eater with a generally low appetite.
Okay.
We avoided sugar for the first couple of years, but then the social world introduced it. We're still pretty low sugar at home, but she eats sugar outside the house. When she gets sick and eats very little, there's a strong temptation to use sugar as an appetite stimulant to keep her from losing more weight or to help her hydrate. Thoughts? And so, Greg, what are your thoughts?
I would start with good job on being low sugar. That'll help in so many ways, biochemically, behaviorally, economically, a million different ways. But I can understand that having an appetite stimulant on hand that you could use if you're worried that your kid is losing weight and becoming unhealthy because they're losing weight, it must be an interesting question and sensible thing to ask. My thoughts are, sugar is most dangerous when you've had lots of it.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have any glycogen left, and glycogen is a starch-like molecule made of glucoses all stuck together, and it is in your muscles mainly, but also your
Liver.
liver, pancreas, where else?
Is it in your pancreas? I'm not sure.
Glycogen's all over the place, isn't it?
I always think about it as muscle and liver.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. I'm thinking of something else. Okay, it's definitely, we agree, it's muscles and liver.
Liver, yeah.
And maybe in other places too. Always read the label, check with somebody who knows what they're talking about. But like, once that is depleted, fructose has been shown, so fructose being half of what we call table sugar, has been shown to be very, very good at putting that back.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are about to go and run a marathon or play touch rugby at a high level, refilling all your glycogen is very good for you. And so fructose can help you out. But if you are already full of fructose, glycogen, then having fructose, it has nowhere to go, and it gets pushed down the JNK1 pathway and a bunch of other painful pathways.
Oh,
No, it doesn't.
no, it doesn't. Yeah, it goes, yeah, you're right.
It's glucose that goes down the polyo pathway into
Isn't it
fructose.
janky? I thought it was MK.
I thought it was JNK.
Okay, fine.
Well-
Sure.
Well, I will put a note in the final write-up of this podcast. It's one of those two pathways. Anyway, you end up with a bunch of things that are very, very bad for you, as we have talked about before. So, if you've got a kid that hasn't eaten for a couple of days and they want, and you want to give them sugar, it'll be less dangerous than at other times. But if you have a kid who hasn't eaten for a couple of days and they've done this on a couple of occasions and they've started eating again normally, a couple of days isn't going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is a strong rationale for using sugar in the situations where you haven't got enough glycogen. So athletes and people who are sick.
Yeah.
And because it's really palatable, it can be a great way to get kids to eat and drink something to keep some degree of energy up.
Sure.
When I was a kid, my mum used to give us Coca-Cola every time we vomited, which was incredibly effective because actually Coca-Cola contains, well, it's got sugar in it, it's got phosphoric acid. So if you've been losing a lot of acid through your mouth, it's pretty good at replenishing that. In a lot of places in the world, it can be one of the few things you get which is actually sterile, which you're not going to be able to get food poisoning from it. So Coca-Cola can be a really good rehydration drink. And for me, I never drink Coca-Cola because the taste of Coca-Cola is the taste of vomit to me. So it's trying to the association is absolutely killer. So I would say, yes, by all means, use fizzy. If you're going to use fizzy drinks at a point, use it for rehydration, especially when a kid is vomiting, because who knows what? You might also put them off for the rest of their life too.
Grim and useful.
Great job, Mum.
All right. Anything to add to that?
No, that's all.
Anna, anything you want to add to that?
No.
Perfect. In that case, folks, you have been listening to me, Dr. Greg Dickens.
Me, Dr. Graham Bradbury.
And me, Dr. Anna Wilson.
And this has been Growing Up Weird. See ya.
Bye.